Cabin 13 Productions.
I'm a doctor of medicine, an MD.
Oh no!
Upanishads.
Upanishads. We're like, yeah, you know that guy Hitler? Yeah, he took my down, dude. Like, you know, and you're just like, you're 5. Like, I'm pretty sure you had a mental disorder.
I'm such a loser, sweating God, I'm the worst.
Have you ever felt drawn to a specific event or a time within history? Have you ever looked at a 1700s era ship and thought, strangely resonate with that? Perhaps you might have a fascination with Vikings and Norwegian history, or that time period in general. Or maybe even have dreams about fighting in the French Revolution. Well, tonight, we're diving into the wild world of reincarnation. Because apparently, dying once isn't just enough for some people. We'll be talking about past life memories, eerie deja vu, and those kids who somehow know way too much about World War II. Is there actual evidence that we have been here before? Are we all just cosmic reruns? Buckle up, because this one might make you just rethink every weird dream you've ever had. So grab your hiking boots or, your comfy couch instead. And let's get on to this week's episode of the Woodsmen podcast. Welcome back to the Woodsmen podcast. We're your hosts, Brent Murphy.
And Joey Rucker.
And my buddy. Again, another day.
Another nickel.
And we are out here. It is a great time. We're recording right now on Sunday, April 6th. And it's a great time. We're still on schedule.
Still on schedule. We're not perfectly on the new schedule yet, our tweaked schedule, but we're at least back on the vibe of Sunday recordings, which is just, it's so nice. It's so nice to have the week to worry about getting everything, worked out, edited, fixed up by the next Sunday, because a few of these episodes in season 4 were like, let's record Wednesday or Thursday, and then let's get it up by Sunday, and it's like,
yeah. And then, as we've talked about before, we split up the work, so it's like, all right, well, I guess all the audio's got to get done in one day and sent out by the next day.
Yeah.
And then edited by the next day. And it's a lot. But, we're here and we're doing it. We're doing the thing.
Getting it done.
Well, let's dive into a little bit of housekeeping. We just got a little bit, so we hope you guys are ready for it. But welcome to Weirdness Week. It's a great time. It's where we do all of our weird and creepy stuff. So it's my favorite time of the month. But I hope you guys also enjoyed Tunnel Theory. It was a pretty cool one, I will say. If you guys enjoyed Tunnel Theory specifically, we touched a lot on like the missing 411 cases and everything with that one, because I know the Tunnel Theory has kind of been brought up a lot by David Paulides and everything. So if you guys enjoyed that one, tune into our finale, which will be the 15th episode of this season, because we're going to do a whole episode on the missing 411 documentary. So it should be a pretty cool one.
I'm going to have to
We're going to have to rewatch it for sure.
Rewatch it just to kind of, get the knowledge back in my head. But I know from watching it the first time, so many interesting stories, situations, and unexplainable events that would be so fun to talk about. One particular one, I can't even remember which one it was, but I remember there was one that like literally left us both like dogs.
Baffled. Like
there's no way.
Are you thinking about the one with the family on the hike? That one? Or are you thinking?
No, I'm thinking about the one, I believe the main one, like the main story that they kind of come back to every time. Yeah. The one where He went. Oh, maybe it was a family one with the
With-
grandpa, and he went missing up in the mountains when they left to go to the car or something.
Yes. That
I don't wanna
that
spoil
one's
everything,
a crazy
but
one. That
that
one's a
one-
crazy one for sure.
Yeah. So it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, that'll be a great one. So yeah, you guys tune
in.
Stay tuned in for that episode. It's gonna be pretty insane, I will say. We did a lot of research on that one. And if you guys haven't been catching up, the whole reason why we're talking about that one now is because we did all the research, we did all of the outline, the script, and then we just didn't record that week. So we decided, hey, let's just move that back. So we were like, it'll be a good one to kind of
Good
end
finale.
the season off for sure.
I think it'll be our first. I think it'll be our first official finale, rather than us just being like,
Scrambling.
we probably gotta
yeah.
quit here and then start over.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm pretty sure we talked about it before when we had talked about our seasons and everything. I'm pretty sure once the season finale comes up, we're going to take a little break just to kind of get things situated, get the next season ready.
Yep.
Any other little things we got going on, and then we'll be back for season 5 with all new.
All
It's
new
going to be
stuff.
great.
Yeah.
It's going to be great. But
I also have a little housekeeping. I have short hair now.
yeah, it's pretty crazy. I was really hoping you were going to bring that up right now. I was like, let me give the dramatic pause just to hope he knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. I know for most of our episodes, I've had my hair back in a ponytail. There's been 1 or 2 episodes where I've had my hair down. A lot of the Christmas ones because I was wearing the Santa hat.
yeah.
But no, my hair has been growing out a long time. I don't know exactly how long it was in comparison to when you got your hair to its longest length, but at least 2.5 to 3 years of growth.
Yeah,
And you know, it's nice. I like the way I look with long hair, but like because
It's refreshing. It's refreshing.
because of work, I just never did anything with it down because I always just had it up for work, and so I never really even had a reason to have it long. And when it gets to that length, it starts to be like just tangles take over. Trying to maintain it properly and keep your hair healthy at that length is just
well, especially when you never cut it, you don't trim off the
Yeah,
dead
no,
ends.
and I
all
never
that kind of
did.
stuff. Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's short. I don't know if it's worth really showing. I can't even properly do things, but it's about right to the collar. I would say
It's pretty short. Yeah.
pretty short.
Now
But
we're low key the short hair brothers.
we're back to being short hair together.
until we go another like 2 years with
I
it
think my
growing
hair
out.
was about this length or a little shorter when we had our first 2022 episodes that came out. No, I'm sorry,
Yeah, that's
2023
crazy.
episodes, the first 5, part of the Lost Records episodes.
R.I.P.
But my hair started about this length when we first got going, and then when we started the Christmas episode for the official start of the Woodsmen, it was a little longer. It was probably a little longer than this, maybe, and it's been growing ever since. So it shows you how long we've been doing this.
I'm proud of you, bro.
It
proud
feels
of
so
you.
much better.
It's a big
Very
step. It's a
happy.
big step, especially with those locks. Well, again, if you guys like us, don't forget to rate, like, subscribe, maybe even leave a review if you guys deem us worthy.
Yes, please.
We appreciate it. And if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, stories, or even inquiries on Cabin 13 or our studio space, you can always head over to the woodsmanpod@gmail.com.
Yeah, and you can always find us on our socials at WoodsmanPod on Instagram and X, where we have more often posts of funny clips from our main show, and we also just like interacting with you guys and talking and chatting over there if you ever want to message us or hit us up or see what's going on in our lives.
Yeah, definitely bring the likes up on Instagram. But if you guys want to argue or I say argue because that's what X is really for, isn't
Yeah,
it all just about arguing
Pretty
with
much.
people? So if you guys want to argue with me because I'm going to take that one over, feel free. I'll probably let you win. I'm not a confrontational person. I will fold immediately.
Mm-hmm.
So if you guys are into
I don't know,
that,
it depends on the argument. You some arguments you'll fight.
talk to me about interdimensional Bigfoot, and I promise you it's over.
It's over for you.
I will come out with the receipts.
Receipts.
Oh man. Well, lastly, you can subscribe to our Patreon for our candid, uncensored show Back to the Cabin at patreon.com/the Woodsmen podcast, which
Yes,
we have been a
sir.
lot more active on. We got
Yes,
2 more
episodes are
episodes
coming
out. So
Episodes are coming out.
yeah.
Make sure not to miss out because we're going to be doing a lot more over there.
Yeah, don't sleep on it. We're trying hard now. We're trying to get our together. So
I looked
Been
into
great.
it. We have been getting paid by our one subscriber.
Finally,
I wanted to check if he really was still subscribed, and he is. And we have made like a whopping $14.
Gotta love it. Hey, bro, any income is income, man. That's
Yeah, we mentioned to you, chat, that we currently have it set up so that it's a $5 payment per month. Well, if it makes you feel any better, we don't even make the full 5 because some of it goes to Patreon and some of it is like a separate fee. So we get like $3
$3 is probably why people put it at 20. So that way it's like a little bit profitable. But we love you guys. We should probably like raise the price at the
Maybe a
beginning
little
and then
bit.
maybe lower it when we got more people.
Yeah.
That's what I would say. But
So get it while you can
We
before
love
we
to
make
be
an
poor.
executive decision.
Yeah, we love to be poor. So it's a great time. So let's dive into one of my favorite things personally. Reincarnation stories.
This will be fun. So today we are, as you said, going into a very interesting topic. We're going to be talking about reincarnation. I think we've brought reincarnation up a few times throughout the various supernatural occurrences. Again, we always have to kind of say, for those who are not really in tune with what we're talking about, supernatural being very light and very just meaning anything that is not natural or natural to what we know and can prove. I don't think, unless maybe you have some stuff here today that we can necessarily 100% prove reincarnation, but there's a lot of stories and occurrences that kind of give light to, oh, there might be more to, past lives than we, let on. So
no, I mean there's a couple of stories. There's some studies by people who've like pretty much spent their entire, almost like their whole career, like 20 plus years of just studying reincarnation, like in general, in a not just a spiritual setting, but like an actual academic setting, like professors, like scientists, that kind of stuff, where it's interesting. Some of the findings, quite frankly, are very interesting.
yeah.
And they kind of match up with some of the stories that we're going to read later on in the show that involve just normal people. Something I tried to do for this one for sure, as far as research-wise, was, hey, let's take a very academic article that kind of goes through the whole process with one, like, pretty well-known case of reincarnation. But then we're going to go into, like, actual people stories where, like, I went into Reddit, went into a couple of other, websites to kind of just dive into, take a shot.
Take a shot. I think they also have to take one for when we speak together.
Probably. So. But yeah, just a lot of different stories from a lot of different real life people, not in an academic setting or people who are being studied, I guess.
Yeah.
Essentially, you're being studied when you're in those kind of positions. Just people where it's like, hey, anyone got any reincarnation stories? And just a flood of people just talking about their own stuff. And quite a lot of them fit in with the academic side, where it's like, hey, all these studies kind of pinpoint towards these type of people at this age, this setting. They coincide with a lot of it, so it's very interesting. So I'm hoping you enjoy them.
No, I definitely think I'm going to enjoy them. I think going based on what I do know, which is not much about like the nuances of reincarnation. My very limited knowledge is that obviously reincarnation is when you died in a past life and you came back in another life. I don't want to like claim that this is necessarily true, but for some reason my memory serves that Buddhism, there's a part of it that doesn't necessarily say you always come back as a person, that you could come back as just another living thing, whether that be, animal life, plant life. Again, I don't know if that's completely strict to Buddhism per se, but I do think there's reincarnation events that are often met with. You're not just like gonna die as Larry from 1930s and then you come back as Joey now. It's not just always that. It's not just dying a person, coming back a person. But yeah, I mean, let's get in, start talking about this stuff. For those few of you who do not know what reincarnation is, and you are just kind of like, what are these guys talking about?
This is like, what the hell? I thought this was a podcast about the woods.
Yeah,
what's going on out here?
Yeah, so reincarnation, also known as rebirth or transmigration, is the philosophical or religious concept that the non-physical essence of a living being begins a new lifespan in a different physical form or body after biological death. So kind of like, yeah. So there is a little bit of truth to what I was saying and what I knew of reincarnation, that it's not always just the physical form that you come back in. It's sort of just, how did it word it? Your living essence.
Yeah.
The non-physical essence of yourself that kind of comes back in a new form, but it's not always physical.
Almost like a soul.
Almost like a soul, yes. It might be your soul
The
reincarnating.
spiritual part of you, not the physical.
So it's an interesting belief. In most beliefs involving reincarnation, the soul of a human being is immortal and does not disperse after the physical body has perished. Upon death, the soul merely becomes transmigrated into a newborn baby or into an animal to continue its immortality. I'm sorry. That's interesting. So yeah, it's more, I guess. This is like kind of the broad reincarnation. I'm assuming that
there's a lot
different
more
cultures
that goes
and regions
into
have different
it.
takes on reincarnation, very much like how different regions and cultures have different takes on religion in general.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, first of all, I would have to ask you, like, how would you think if like reincarnation was really something that you would be down with as far as like belief wise, not just spirituality, but like, I could get down with like something along those lines. Would you think it would be something more like you're just transplanted into anything that's like living or like as far as biodiversity? Or are you more inclined to like, if I'm gonna go down, if I'm going 6 feet under, am I gonna come back as a plant? Or is it more like, do you think you would like more than likely come back as like another person, or transfer, I guess, your soul into like a newborn or something to relive?
Yeah.
Or would you be on that wave of like, hey, you can come back as a mosquito, bro? Like,
So it's, I don't think, to start off, I don't necessarily believe in reincarnation. If I did, I do have a very particular answer of how I would view it as a concept and what was going on. There was this video, I don't think it was Kazat, which is I want to say, I don't know if they're Australian or British. I can't remember off the top of my head.
They got an accent.
They have some kind of accent, but it's basically an animated YouTube channel that explains all things science. Is smoking good for you? What would happen if you blew up a black hole? I mean, it can be radical, and sometimes it can be just a common question.
Just like random scientific like studies.
Yeah, but it's all scientifically
Yeah.
grounded, and they show all of their research if you're curious about seeing it. And it's all animated in a very, very cool
Easy
stylistic
to follow
way.
type of. Yeah.
It's very fun, very good. Definitely recommend the channel. And it's funny I say that because I actually don't completely know if this is the channel I'm thinking of what I want to reference and talk about. But it was in that same style where there was an animated video that I saw, and they weren't necessarily doing a video on what is reincarnation. They were giving kind of a mind-boggling scenario. And the scenario was there was this person who passed away and went up into space and basically kind of got to talk to the creator. Now, this creator wasn't God, it wasn't Buddha, it was just the creator.
Yeah.
And he basically talked to him and was like, whoa, what's going on? And the creator talked to him about how he just died and how soon we're going to be sending you back to inherit a new body. And the dude was like, well, wait, what? How does that work? And the creator tells him that this has actually happened many times. You've died many times and you've come back. And he's like, how many times have I died? Like, how long has this been going on? And the creator tells the man, this is actually the question you always ask. You never really find the right thing to ask. The truth of the answer is you've been reincarnated every time. And he's like, what do you mean? And he says, you've been reincarnated in time and in person. Every person on earth is you. Every single one of them. You have never, it's not 8 billion people. They're all you just living their separate lives of life and death. And you're trying to find out the real question, but you just don't know what it is yet. And when you're ready and you're done and you know what the question to ask is, then you'll be able to be done and move on to the next stage or whatever. And it was this just kind of an interesting mind, a brain, what am I thinking of? Like, just a thing to think about.
Yeah.
Which is that, if you're reincarnated, how crazy would it be if it wasn't like everybody can be reincarnated, but it was just everything was you, the plants on the earth, you as every person on earth. And it really went into detail. It was like all these wars that are going on in the world. That's just you fighting you. You grow and you find these new aspects of life to learn, and you find new aspects to kind of believe in. Sometimes you believe in God. Sometimes you believe in flat earth. Sometimes you believe in, the stars. And every time you never really truly find what you're looking for. What you want to find is peace, but you never find it. One day you will find it when you have lived every single life there is to live. And it's just a crazy, and I know that's a long answer, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. And since we're talking about reincarnation, if I believed in reincarnation, I would love to think that we're all kind of one person, and we're all just sort of the reason we're all trying to struggle to figure out what's going on is because we as one have never known what to ask or what to know. Like, we all just struggle with the same thing, but it's because we're so faltered and we're so broken as a species that we kind of always stab ourselves in the foot.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a crazy answer. I hope I didn't kind of ramble too long.
To me, it's not. I would get into what I believe, just like my actual personal beliefs, because a lot of my personal beliefs like coincide actually with what you said just now. So like to me, it's not like random. So I'll dive into it, but I think I'll dive into that more in like our discussion part to wrap up the night, just to kind of, bring it back all together, from the beginning. But nah, you're not alone in that. Cool. If you were going to believe in that kind of thing, I think that's like one of the most rational ways you could think about, existence just in general as a whole.
Yeah, remind me to send you the video when I get the chance, because it's really interesting. It's a cool, like, you just like, wow, this was a fun video to like make me think.
No, and again, like, without going super into it, like, it's crazy that you brought that up, because I'm currently buying a book series that is actually there's 5 books in the series, and I'll touch more on like who wrote them and all that kind of stuff. But the whole series is on human consciousness being connected with every person like living on the planet, present, past, future, all that kind of stuff. So it's very interesting. But yeah, we'll dive more into that towards the end of the night. But
oh my God, I think it was Kruzkassat as the channel, by the way. I think it was. Their video is called The Egg.
The Egg.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, first of all, I guess we should kind of ask ourselves just the question in general. What cultures, like what cultural religions, all that kind of stuff.
Because natural, not natural, but like normal, I guess you would say, American traditions don't commonly follow the idea of...
it's not commonly practiced. It's not a commonly practiced thing. Well, I kind of dug a little bit deep into this, and obviously, is anyone who's kind of studied anything having to do with like religion and different cultures who practice different religions, you can find a lot of this like in the central tenet of India religions. You have religions such as Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, Sikhism. In various forms, it occurs as an esoteric belief, just in general.
Okay.
I think we have even brought up that word quite a few times, just like esoteric knowledge, just things where it's above the normal range of like a conscious awareness of certain things. In many streams of Judaism, in certain pagan religions, and even some beliefs of like the indigenous peoples of like America and Aboriginal Australians. So, Native Americans, Canadian American, not American, but Canadian indigenous tribes, stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's something that is a thought that's out here, but it's not like as prevalent as it would be in somewhere as far as like Eastern India,
Gotcha.
Central India, all that kind of stuff. Very like Eastern beliefs of culture and things like that. But surprisingly, when I was looking this up, some ancient Greek historical figures, which like a lot of us kind of learn like in school, whether it's high school or just like in history in general, a lot of these historical figures such as like Pythagoras, Socrates, Plato, they express beliefs in souls, I guess essentially their rebirth and like their migration to not just a place, but into a different lifetime or a different body, So it's not like a very out of place kind of thing that people have thought of. So I do find that a little, interesting. It's not a new thought, essentially. It's not like a new age religion or anything like that. I mean, this has been something that has been around for a minute.
People have talked about it for a long time.
Yeah. And, you ask yourself, like, when did this idea start in general? Well, again, digging into this research, this is actually like one of our more research heavy ones, I will say. I kind of we dug in deep a lot on this one for sure. But you go on reincarnationafterdeath.com. There's an article in there, and I'm just going to briefly touch on it. Historically speaking, the theory of reincarnation is as old as the history of man in general. This has been like a question and a struggle that people have kind of gone through throughout history, throughout mankind, throughout time, Reincarnation arose in northern India between the years of 1600 BC. So that's pretty, that's
old.
pretty old. That's pretty old. 1,000 years before like what we would consider if you were a Christian or anything like within those like those faiths and everything, like Islamic faith and Judaistic religions and everything. That's 1,000 years before Jesus, essentially.
What do non-religious folks refer to BC as? Do you remember?
Before Common Era.
Before Common Era, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then there's like AD, which is like
AD's
something
the one that
denominee or
everyone
something like
struggles to
that.
remember,
Yeah, I
I've
can't remember
noticed.
what the A is, but yeah, it's interesting for sure. But just at the time of David and his descendants ruled Israel until the fall of Jerusalem. So around the time of David, if you're a Christian or if you're into any of like the Judaic religions, David is the one that famously conquered Goliath, the giant. But that was well before it was around the time of his reign in Jerusalem. So very interesting. Pretty old. It's pretty old. The first reference to reincarnation, though, as an idea, is at least 26,000 years old.
That's definitely 2,600 years, but 26,000 would be
I'm
crazy.
sorry, 2,600 my bad. 2,600 years old.
You're good.
It appears in the I'm going to try and read this. It's an interesting word.
What is that?
Upanishad, hopefully.
Yeah, Upanishad or Upanishad. Upanishad.
Yeah, any of those words.
Upanishads.
But I mean, I learned though, that's the sacred scriptures of Hinduism. So that's like what they would refer to as like their Bible.
Gotcha.
I'm so sorry that I like destroyed that way.
It's not your fault, man.
I'm sorry.
We're from the US of A, where we're just not good at words.
And it's not even that, but like we just don't get taught any of this. Like if you're not,
Yeah, that's also true.
if you're not of the Christian belief, you don't really learn anything about
No.
any other religion or their text. Like this is all new to me.
Yeah.
So I'm thankful for the podcast for teaching me something new, you know? But again, like I said, this is the sacred scriptures of Hinduism. To date, the largest religion in India. So it's pretty big. I don't know if you've seen how big India is, but it's not small.
No, India's one
Definitely
of the
not small.
big ones, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
Like-
one of the biggest continents for sure.
Which one's the
or
other
not,
crazy big
not
one? Is it
continent,
Africa?
but you know, yeah, Africa.
Or is that Australia?
Sorry, I was thinking Asia,
No, wait,
but
isn't
it's
Australia huge?
in India is in Asia.
Was that really big?
I hope if
we
it's not.
mentioned we didn't
sorry.
learn geography.
Yeah, we
I'll
didn't
look
learn
up what
geography
some of the
then.
big ones are, but
But like I said, the Upanishads are the ancient Sanskrit texts that form the philosophical basis of Hinduism. And these kind of focus on meditation, philosophy, and just the nature of reality in general. So it is, it's a wide variety of texts for sure. So
no, it's super cool. I mean, it's like you said, I never really got to learn any of this kind of stuff growing up in our schools, and yeah, so I would have never learned about the Upanishads. Sorry, I do genuinely apologize for the name.
it's even worse because
Pronunciation.
like in the shot you were just on your phone, so it was like oh yeah yeah, this is crazy. No, Joey's looking up info.
I'm gonna
I
look up
promise.
how to pronounce that word.
Please do, so we don't sound terrible throughout this whole episode.
Let's hear it. Hold on, Chad. I think I got it. Let's see. How do you say that?
Upanishads.
Upanishads. Nice.
There you go.
I mean, I don't know if I trust Google, like the Google dictation, but it's fine. It's better than what we were saying. Upanishads.
Upanishads.
Yeah. So who experienced these type of things, right? So this was interesting to me. This was like one of the more interesting type of parts of reincarnation that I didn't really think about, but kind of makes more sense when you like really kind of ponder on the whole idea. Typically, children are the largest demographics when it comes to remembering stories and information about their past lives. So this was one.
It is
where I was
always
like,
interesting
oh, yeah.
because, like, we've talked about this so much, and a lot of these. I feel like it could be an argument for and against a lot of these different topics we discuss on the podcast, but it really is like, you know, people who experience supernatural occurrences. In this case, reincarnation stories. A lot of times, it ends up being children. And we do often say that it's likely because they are more open. They're not like as shut off to the idea of things.
They haven't
so
been beaten down by life.
Yeah,
you know, like
exactly. But I also think it could, for certain people, be used as an argument against it, because then some people view children less as being open and capable of experiencing it, and more so just
dumb.
Yeah, dumb's kind of a harsh word, but yes, that is what I'm talking about. They're not experienced. They don't know what life is yet. So how are they to be trusted with their opinions because they are so young? But you know, just
Spitballing here,
just
you know,
thing to think about.
No, I mean that's fair. That's fair. But I did find on mindbodygreen.com. This is an article written by Jason Wachab. He talks about a guy named Jim Tucker, right? Jim Tucker is a doctor of medicine, so he's an MD. He knows what's up. And he has been specifically studying reincarnation stories for over 2 decades. So 20 years this man has like devoted his like actual job to studying these stories, which is very it's admirable, because there's not a lot of people who would be willing to sit there and like, hey, this is a fringe topic. I mean, let's be honest. Like, I mean, reincarnation, that's essentially like, oh, I'm going to dedicate my whole life to like researching miracles or like researching, stuff having to do with the Bible on a scientific level. You know, that's not a priest. I mean, this guy has like been like, hey, I'm a doctor of medicine, an MD.
Oh no.
That's crazy.
Your frame came off of your photo.
Wanna know what's crazy?
But the photo's
Wait, go on my screen. The photo is still up.
Is it?
But the frame.
The frame came off? How the hell did you do that?
Maybe something doesn't want us talking about it. I don't.
Yeah, maybe. Oh man, that's crazy.
Weird, right?
That's the first one caught on camera. That kind of stuff happens to us a lot.
We hear a lot of when we record some of these stories. It's always on the weirdness week. It's always on the weirdness week. That's wild.
That was not scripted. We did not do that. We did not plan that.
No, that's crazy. I mean, for any of our audio listeners right now, I have a picture of me and my girlfriend like right behind me right now, talking as we speak. And it was in a picture frame, and it's hanging on the wall. And the picture frame just fell on the ground, but the picture is still up. The picture is still on the wall.
Wow.
Wild.
That is something.
Well, I'm just going to act like that didn't happen right now, and I'm going to keep continuing on about Stop. That's crazy. No, I would feel more comfortable if the picture falls, because then I know it's not me. Like,
yeah, but if it had fallen right when you said, I'm just going to pretend like that didn't happen and move on, and that's when I'd be like, maybe
probably have to cut it short.
Maybe we cut the pod and talk about something else.
Yeah, maybe let's just talk about something funny. Like, I don't know. Let's talk about hair. Let's talk about...
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, so, again, a man who has, dedicated his, career for 20 years on just trying to figure out all of this kind of stuff that has to do with reincarnation. It's pretty admirable, and I respect it as, a man who's trying to study the weird, unexplainable things in the world. I would deem reincarnation a unexplainable thing for sure, especially when you go into his research and you find out, like, some of these kids give some detailed responses for how young they are, right? So let's just read what this man has to say. It's pretty interesting. So Jim Tucker states that the average age when a child starts talking about their past lives is 35 months. So if you can't do math in your head, don't worry. I got you.
It's almost 3.
Usually it's around their 3rd birthday. So it's like, in between 2 to 3 years old. 75% of them will talk about how they died in their last life, says Tucker. I quote, in those cases, 70% of them are through some sort of unnatural means. So something like murder, suicide, car accidents, combat accidents, all that kind of stuff. So
you ever seen the videos of them talking about it? They're always like so chill about it too. Like they'll be just like looking at their fire truck and they're like, gas chamber. You know how it is.
We're like, the guy Hitler? Yeah, he took my down, dude. Like, and you're just like, you're 5. Like, I don't understand. Like,
and then the crazy thing is that a lot of times after you call them out, you're like, what are you talking about? They're like, I don't know, I'm kind of hungry. Can we have dinner?
Yeah, they just like switch snaps. They're like, I want grilled cheese.
Yeah,
I like milk. Like, like just
give
some
me
random
of them nuggies.
Yeah, I want some chicken nuggets. Like, they just, it's so wild. Yeah, it's like one part of them was like,
they're always so nonchalant.
If your soul wasn't a kid, it was like, Woodsmen podcast, and then just like, huh? No, like, dog. Like just like some random dude. Like, it's crazy. So you got to ask yourself, what is a common question about these studies, right? Common question about these is something like, do we all have past lives? And do only some of us verbalize them at a young age? Or do only those who remember their past lives actually have them? Like, do all of us as humans have a past life that's currently living within our bodies?
Yeah.
Or is it just, some kids are special while others aren't, And according to Tucker, I guess he kind of has an answer for it, kind of doesn't have an answer. He has said that there's technically no evidence that everyone has past lives. But then again, there's no evidence against it either. You know, it's like the either or, but you can't prove either or. You know, it's just there. Like the information is there. You got to choose. I guess kind of like what religion is. You either have faith in it
Or you don't.
that it's real,
Yeah.
or you have faith that it's not real. You know, there's not really a big, I guess, disclaimer for everything. It's like it's all about faith, right? So, however, he also notes that because there is this trauma associated with past life memories, as far as like, you know, dying sudden, all that kind of stuff, perhaps an individual is more likely to have one if they have had some sort of like unfinished business, you know, quote unquote, to tend to, or like if a previous person either died violently or died young. And I don't know. It's very interesting. I mean, this man, he's asking the questions, you know, like we've talked about it before, where it's like you don't really necessarily get the answers to your questions, but you learn to ask better questions. And I feel like after this man has done 20 years of research with this, he's kind of learned, like, I don't really think I'm going to get all the answers to what I'm like trying to get, but at least I can learn, like, okay, well, if this is happening, this is the demographic, this is the percentage that I'm getting. I got to learn to ask better questions when these cases kind of come up in order to gather more data, or, you know, just, I guess, writings on all of these things to document it. So I don't know. It's weird.
No, it is weird. I was thinking the questions of, you know, do we all have a past life, or do just the ones who remember have a past life, being some of the main questions. I would argue another important question would be not the second one of did just the ones who remember have past lives. Mine would be more so, I would think if some people can remember, and it is true that everyone has it, my question would be, why do not all of us remember it?
Yeah.
That would be kind of where I stand. Why is it that they're remembering their past life, but I can't remember mine? Not like as a disproving factor, more so as like a
genuine question.
What's going on? What's going on behind the scenes that's happening with my brain? Now, it could just be that maybe I had a little too many nuggies and my brain just sort of started farting earlier than others. And
could be. I mean, could be, honestly.
I do think that certain children are way smarter at certain ages than other ones at the same age. I mean, I do genuinely think...
Is it way smarter, or is it more in tune?
It could be, it could be either or. To me, I always default to my brother, because my brother, you know, he's a menace for sure, but he learned sign language when he was literally a toddler, and before he could talk. And so he was able to like talk and communicate to us the things he wanted because he could use sign language to ask for stuff. And we'd be like, oh, he's hungry right now. Cause he'd be like, hungry, milk. And you'd be like, that's kind of odd. And because of that, he was like talking to us so early on compared to like I was. I took a while to start talking.
Oh, we know.
But when I did, I never stopped.
You're like, Hulk smash. And you just...
Can I get one of them Twinkies, Graham?
And they're like, you're 3. Like, why do you've never even had a Twinkie. Why was it the first thing you wanted?
John was sitting there 2 years old, and he was like giving the meaning of the universe, but he's sitting there like...
But you guys don't know sign language, so it doesn't even matter.
So...
You're just like, I think he just... And like...
He's like, I've been telling you this for 4 minutes. He sat in my...
It's like, I literally told you guys when I was going to go, and you still chose to do nothing. Like, you ignorant swine, I guess. Like, I don't know, man. But, I mean, I guess I kind of have an answer for that, too, as far as, like, well, why would some know and not the others? Or, you know, but, like you said, some kids are more either in tune or more smart, you know, than others at a certain age. But I think it's part of it, I think, is just that we all, I guess, have it, but, you know, our brains kind of filter things out. And like there's been studies about this just on the scientific side, as far as like, hey, we're going to show you a video, this controlled setting or whatever. You tell us what's different about the video. And they have something playing. And for us, you know, as video people and audio people, they'll have someone in the foreground. They're doing something crazy. You know, you're focused on, you know, something crazy. Or it's like, hey, focus on the red balloon or something like that. And like a red balloon is in the foreground. You're focused on it. Goes through like 30 seconds, 45 seconds, maybe even a minute. And then like, okay, we're going to show you the video again. Tell us what's different about this video. And they don't tell you to focus on the foreground. They're like, just anything about this video, tell us what's different.
Are you talking kind of about that
And
like,
then-
gorilla video?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you have like, there's a gorilla in the background,
Yeah,
you know?
no one can see
And
it.
like no one can see it. It's that like your mind is trained to take out the things that don't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
And like I'm a firm believer in this, even just, you know, I like my weird so it's like I tune it to like y'all see something in the sky, UFO type, spaceship, whatever, little green men, whatever you want to believe in or dive into, I don't know. Take a shot, please. You don't focus on it if you're not trained to look at it. You know, your brain is an excellent, like, it's like beer goggles. Like, you know, like,
Yeah.
like beer goggles, you're like, oh man, everything's crazy. But then it's like, you're just like focused on whatever is like right in front of you. And I feel like that's how our brain is. You know, it's like we're very focused on the things that make sense. Focus on the things that we understand. Focus on the things where it's like, well, yeah, this is something we all see all the time, you know? It's like when things come up that we've never seen or that we can explain or like things we cannot describe in like our own physical and like mental terms, we just kind of block it out. It's
It's true. I mean, it happens in as simple as text. I mean, there's those things on Instagram I see all the time.
where it's like
where
you
it's a
read
whole
this wrong
paragraph.
and then it'll like switch things over.
There's one where it's a clear as day. The entire paragraph is spelled incorrectly, terribly spelled. And
Oh,
you're
it's like
just
one of
what the
those,
hell?
if you can read this,
Yeah,
then you're one of the
But then
blah,
it
blah, blah
tells you
percent of the...
there's some
yeah.
that tell you the trick. The trick is, as long as the first letter and the last letter of the word are the correct letters, your brain logically just and automatically repairs the word. Even if it's not, you know, some are spelled a little closer to the actual spelling than others, and some are just absolutely atrociously spelled. For some reason, your brain will just kind of see that, do its brain thing, and just fix the words, because
Yeah.
as long as those letters in the beginning and the end are the same, it's happening all the time. There's so many examples, and that's just another example, but there's so many prime examples of your brain seeing something it doesn't get, so it just sort of sees it the way it needs to see it. You know?
Yeah, it gives you something that like logically makes sense to you in order for you to comprehend like what's actually going on.
Mhm.
And that's, I mean, I feel like it's got to be an old study because I feel like people bring that up all the time.
It's the
you
same
know, like-
reason why VR is so like concerning to the brain itself. That's why when people go in, they do easily get so motion sick. Or like when we were in Vegas that one time in the VR place, and we went on in the virtual reality world, there's a very thin bridge where we see a
Dude,
cliff.
yeah, no,
Your brain is just a brain. All it knows
Yeah.
is what goes in and then has to react to. So we having a soul or whatever you want to call it inside us that makes us human, we can tell that whatever's going on in the goggle glasses
like I
is
know
not
this
real.
is not real, but
your
at the
brain
same time,
doesn't
my
get it.
body
Your
can't.
body has
Yeah.
this instinctual feeling of like dread and fear. Like, we got to get out of here.
When I
you
mean,
know?
I personally on that part went through that. I dead ass like
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember. I was like, I'm gonna fall off. Like I'm gonna fall
Yeah.
off this cliff right now.
Yeah.
But there's no cliff.
Yeah.
Like there's just like it's just flat ground.
It's a complete
But
mind
I'm like,
game, dude.
I'm like, this is life or death. Like if I fall right now, I fall and I die.
Yeah.
Like that was just the like
This
brain
is why I
comprehension.
seriously want to do an episode on the brain as a whole. It's just the problem is that the brain is so complicated.
We gotta get someone in that actually knows, like, because we're just gonna sound like idiots. Like, I want someone who's
we
like
need
here
like
who
a
knows what they're
neurologist
talking about.
who we can just ask questions, interview style. So it's basically like talking to ChatGPT at that point. We're just like, listen, we don't know anything, but we want to know everything. So we have 30 questions for you.
Dumb it down in an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So we can just figure out the meaning of life and our brains. Like, please. Non-biased. I don't know how you could do that if you're a neuroscientist, but gotta do what you gotta do. But let's get through this part.
Sure.
Let's get through this part. So another similarity he says is that children who have past life memories tend to be very bright, very verbal at a young age, and other children might have these images of past life memories, and they just honestly simply cannot have the language skills to possibly verbalize some of these things going on, which, I mean, that makes sense. I can barely talk English enough as it is,
Yeah.
I can barely say real words. I just kind of blur them all together like I'm talking in cursive. So
I saw a video today that was like basically what life is when it starts, and it's like it's a jump cut from year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, and for the first 4 years, it's just some dude in a park, like kind of sitting there. And then it hits year 5, and like dramatic music plays, and you're like, "What the
much, dude?
I'm a person."
Self-awareness,
self-awareness,
self-awareness. You know, there's apparently a test that can like test your kid if they're self-aware yet.
Really?
You like mark a dot on their forehead, and you put them in front of a mirror. And if they like go up to like rub the dot off, then they can comprehend that they're seeing themselves in the mirror and know that dot shouldn't be there. Very interesting.
No, that is very interesting.
Like, I really wish I had a random fetus around that I could just do that.
I'm promising it now, chat. By season at least 6, we're gonna have a brain neurology episode.
We have to. We're gonna bring in a baby.
We're gonna put a dot on its head and have it walk around.
And if show it in the screen, this confidence monitor we have in front of us right now.
Yeah, we'll have it right on this table.
Yeah, and just be like, hey, here,
look,
and just see if it or if it itself. Like, we don't know. It could go either way. It could either wipe that off and give us some answers, like Weird Gary and SpongeBob, where he had a full human body and like
the baby will just start
had
talking
all the answers
like,
to life
since the dawn of time.
And strangely sounds like Morgan Freeman every time. Like like
the penguins waddle.
And this is the real story, like
of the universe.
Like I don't know, man.
Sorry, let's get back. I keep going on tangents.
Well, to quote Mr. Tucker, by the time they get to where they can actually verbalize, the image may have faded, whereas with these kids, they start talking about it. And it kind of firms it up in their mind and becomes a full case. So, again, bro's pretty smart, so he'd be using words that I wouldn't normally use. Firms it up doesn't really make a lot of sense. I had to actually second glance, like, that's not what that says, right? And I was like, oh, no, I know how to read. Yeah, I know how to read. That's exactly how he says that. That's crazy. So to go on with that quote, he says, I have become convinced that there is more than just the physical world. He also goes on to say consciousness is the core of reality that the physical world grows out of, not the other way around. Yeah. So that hits. I mean, that hits, especially that last quote. I mean, like, consciousness is not something that comes out of, the physical realm, but it's just something that has always been in the physical, is, I guess, a product of the conscious mind,
Yeah.
So it's pretty wild.
You guys really should check out that Kreuzgesagt. By the way, don't even try spelling it. Just like do a voice search, because it's like a German or Australian or something name. It's a weird spelling, but Kreuzgesagt, I believe, is how it's
probably
pronounced.
Like from Like, it's probably from the East Coast or some shit. You just don't know how to say words.
But it's so good because they also have an episode on consciousness too, and a lot of it has to do with survival instincts, like how it's kind of the whole video is just about how can consciousness become a thing in something that doesn't have consciousness.
The hypnagogic jerks, like the like jumping
Kinda
you
like
do
that.
like in your sleep.
But their explanation would be that was a survival trait that you learned
to keep you
in
from
your
falling out of
ancestors.
trees.
Not just you, but something. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Something
yeah.
that's some.
And if you didn't have that,
personal
then
you.
you just fell out of
Yeah.
the tree and then you got eaten
then you-
by a
Yeah,
puma
exactly.
or some like I don't know.
And those survival traits move on throughout time, which is what grows consciousness. It's those kind of things. But
Yeah. So to continue, this kind of makes sense when you think about past life memories. In these cases, consciousness prevails even when the body loses its physical form. I quote, "The brain died physically and the consciousness continued on," notes Tucker. While most of us do not have past life memories that are active, these cases can indicate that consciousness may very well live on after we die. Tucker also goes on to say, and I quote, "We are not just physical beings trapped in a random universe for a few decades, and then we're gone. This is a hopeful message for people." So take that as you will, but this is also someone, again, you got to look at the facts. This is someone who has studied this stuff for 20 years of their life, their professional career. I mean, think about it. People's professional careers, if you're working from like 20, most of the time lasts for like 40 years. So, I mean, over, half or like just half of their life in general has been dedicated to trying to figure this stuff out, in general. It's mind-blowing when you hear someone who's way smarter than you. Like, let's be honest. I mean,
no,
an MD, I'm sorry, ain't no way. Ain't no way. I'm not going through all that school.
I'm a sleepy.
Yeah, you get it. You get it, dude.
Yeah, it's super intriguing. It's such a fun mind boggling question to kind of debate about, because we don't, and I don't know if, I don't think we all have the answers, obviously, but there's so much to look at. Obviously, we've gone on 7 tangents in this talk just because this sort of conversation leads to so many others, and it's such a fun thing to talk about. It's great. There's so much more to learn that we haven't even gotten to yet,
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, I mean, let's just go head first into some like reincarnation stories, man, because I think that's the only way you're gonna kind of
here's some examples,
figure some stuff out. So yeah.
Wait, let's die and then reincarnate into the next scene.
And we're back.
Whoa.
Well, let's just dive head first, take a shot into into some reincarnation stories that are bound to like get you guys confuzzled, to say the least. That's all I gotta say.
Let's do it.
So this is probably the most like heavy as far as like research dive story that we have. The other ones are gonna be a little bit shorter, so bear with me. We're gonna get through these, So
Bear with you. Is that me? the bear. Oh. Just move on.
So anyways, this is
man. I have to add a laugh track.
And it just stops like it's just a cut like in the middle of the
Yep. I'm gonna do it.
So this is the case of Ryan Hammonds. So this is a pretty well-known case. This has been pretty much looked at by a lot of people, but got a lot of my info from a Dr. Stephen Taylor, who is a PhD, and it's his article on evaluating evidence of reincarnation from psychologytoday.com. So again, paraphrased a lot of this article, so it's quite literally. I mean, you could read the article, but this pretty much sums up everything that he talks about. So it all started when Ryan Adams was just 4 years old. So right there, we already got a connection.
A little older than some people think.
Yeah. Yeah,
According
around
to those
3.
studies,
around 3.
It was usually like 35 months. So
yeah, so 3 to 4.
A little after that.
3 to 4. This is at 4. Or, I'm sorry, 2 to 3. So this is at 4.
Did you become... I'm sorry to interrupt. I know we got to get through this, but I became self-aware at 4.
I think about like, my first like real memory was in the hallway at 4.
So 4. So we kind of fit the criteria.
We fit the bill for sure. So out of nowhere, he looked up at his mom, Cindy, and said, quote, "I think I used to be somebody else." No, I'm sorry.
This is immediately when I
if I was a mom, yeah. if I was a mom, I'd be like a woman, or like, we got to be culturally accurate. Like, like, what do you mean by that? Like, what do you mean by that?
You gotta play your cards.
Yeah, you gotta play. You gotta play the whole hand.
Yeah.
You gotta play the whole hand for sure.
Oh,
so, not exactly the kind of thing a preschooler says every day. So, this article gets it. What followed was a series of strange and vivid memories that did not belong to a little boy growing up in the Midwest, but to some who had once lived a very different life under the glitz and glamour of old Hollywood. Whenever Ryan saw a Hollywood sign flash across the TV screen, he'd light up and say, "That's my home. I need to go back." No.
Interesting.
Ryan also claimed that he had been an agent in Hollywood and said his agency used to change actors' names and that he danced on Broadway. Okay. He lived in a mansion with huge swimming pools.
Already
and attended...
You can already tell that this is too much information for a 4-year-old.
Yeah, like this is way too much.
Saying, "Oh, that used to be my home," when you see a Hollywood sign, that could be
okay. Like, yeah.
But saying you lived on or danced on Broadway, that's so specific. The mansion, the huge swimming pool. I mean, that's very particular.
Yeah, and I mean, he even talks about like he lived in a mansion with a huge swimming pool, attended fancy parties with a cowboy who had a trick performing horse. And starred in cigarette commercials?
Okay.
Like, that is, like, way too specific for a child to be... Nah, that's my first, like... I mean, it's not my first red flag, but it's one of many.
It's the first where it's like, this is a bit too much. Something's going on.
Yeah. So occasionally a song would come on the radio, and Ryan would spring up, and he'd tap dance. Which, what a nerd, by the way. like,
I was just thinking about a little 4-year-old. He'd be like, "Oh,
yeah, like, what a nerd, dude! Like, my God."
We here at the Woodsmen do not support tap dancers.
Yeah, I know. Them bitches, dude. I don't even care if you listening tap dance. I'm sorry, but you're a nerd. Like, you're a nerd. Sorry, not sorry. I don't even care. When his school asked him to draw a picture of his home, Ryan would always include a fourth person. He would include himself, his mom, his dad, and, quote, "the old me."
Oh, boy.
Yeah. So it's
not looking good.
It's not looking good. I mean, it's crazy, but I would have just sent him to the orphanage.
Honestly, if we're talking seriously, I would at that point probably just go to the doctor. I honestly, like, not even joking.
I'd be like, bro, hit his
head. I'd be
head.
like, he's talking very particulars right now. There's something going on. Even if it's not anything bad, I would want to get like a checkup just to see what any clinical person would have to say about it. You know?
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, Cindy, his mother, trying to make sense of it all, she started writing everything down, which, that's pretty good. I would be that.
That's smart.
I would be that mom, or dad. I'd be like, all right, we're writing all this down because I'm going to forget all of this in a matter of a day. So I'm going to need to, and he ain't going to remember it. So
yeah.
She checked out books on Hollywood from the library, hoping that maybe something might have clicked. One day, flipping through a book, And this is the crazy part. I don't think you're ready for this one.
Okay.
One day, flipping through a book, they came across a still from 1932 from a film, Night After Night. Ryan's eyes widened and he said, "Mommy, that's George. We did a picture together." And he pointed to a man in the background of the photo and said, "And that's me."
Nope. That's where we close the book and we tell him, "You're a little too creative, son. We need to give you a few less juice boxes today."
Yeah, you are juice box drunk,
Yeah.
and we need to limit you
No,
because
that's-
you're a juice box alcoholic.
That's insane. That's
yeah.
absolutely wild.
Yeah. So the man he recognized as quote unquote George turned out to be the actor George Raft. So this was not someone he just attributed
Wow.
the name to, right?
Yeah.
But the mystery man Ryan identified as himself, no name, no credits, and no information, at least at the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now we're getting somewhere.
So when Ryan turned 5, Cindy reached out to Dr. Jim Tucker, our boy Tucker, my man, the MD.
Our boy.
Yes, sir. A psychiatrist known for studying children who reported past life memories. And you have to remember, and chat, this is for you guys. When I did this information, these were on 2 totally different websites, quite literally on the second to third page difference of Google looking for this. So it's very interesting that this guy was the one that come up out of everybody in a random story that I found, right? So it's pretty interesting. So obviously, like we said before, you know, he's known for studying children who reported these past life memories. So he knows a thing or two about a thing or two for sure.
Yeah.
So around the time, a film archivist helping with the documentary about Ryan tracked down the identity of the man from the photo. So at this point, they had kind of started making a documentary about this kid because it was so crazy. It was like such a crazy, like, yo, what? You know, like this is wild, you know? They were making a documentary about this kid. And he the archivist like tracked down the guy. So we didn't have any information before, but his name was Marty Martin and was once a dancer.
By the way,
an actor.
a tap dancer named Marty Martin.
Yeah, that's
Nerd.
what a
Go ahead.
What a
say
guy.
it.
What a guy. So my man, again, and you got to look at the similarities. Dancer, actor, a talent agent, which he had specifically said worked with talent agencies
He
to
mentioned
change
it.
names of actors and everything.
This is crazy.
He died in 1964. He wasn't a household name, and at that time, you couldn't even find him online. So, which would explain the reason why he had no name or any credits on that photo in that book. Yeah. So in total, Ryan had made 55 specific claims about the supposed past life. With the help of public records, archives, and even Martin's daughter, the team was able to verify every single one of the claims.
Wow.
Ryan had described these things like, again, Martin's tap dancing days, which he literally
that's not
showed
super
signs
specific.
of tap dancing.
Yeah, he'd get up and he'd be like,
Yeah, he was literally a duendes, bro, at that point. It's about the size of one, too.
Yeah.
His work at talent agencies that helped him change actors' names, multiple marriages, a favorite restaurant in Chinatown, which that's hella specific
weird.
because they live in the Midwest.
Yeah.
They didn't live in LA. Like, the fact they even knew about Chinatown was wild.
Yeah.
As a 5-year-old,
Oh my God, dude.
frequent trips to Paris, a collection of sunglasses, and including buying his daughter a dog when she was 6 years old.
Huh. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just so many things that are so particular, bro. This is insane.
Yeah, right? So, and perhaps one of the most striking pieces of evidence was when Ryan was brought up to the building that once housed Marty Martin's talent agency. He lit up, and Cindy described it as if he'd finally come home after being away for a very, very long time. Yeah. And today, as far as when this article was published, I believe it was published in like 2020 something, so fairly recent. Today, Ryan is a teenager. He no longer remembers any of the details of his past life, but some of the things still linger. He still loves classical movies, big band music from the 40s and the 50s, and maybe, even though the memories have faded, the echoes, they definitely still remain. Yeah.
Dang, dude.
And so we actually I'll try and remember this in the not the show notes, but the actual description that we have for all of our videos. I'll try and remember. There's actually a video about Ryan Hammonds, which is indeed the documentary that they had done on him. So I'll try and link that at the bottom, so you guys can take a look at that. It's on YouTube. Very interesting stuff.
That's
And
wild.
Yeah.
Stuff, dude.
I mean, that's
It was so funny. You were getting to the end, and the first thing I was thinking was, what is he like now, or like as an adult? What does he remember? Is he still have any of those memories?
Where it's like he shows those signs, but he doesn't remember them, and it's like
it's crazy, dude.
It's almost like one of those things where people, like there's a lot of like those couple posts and everything. It's like, I'll find you in every lifetime type of thing. No matter like what we are, I'll find you. And it's almost like one of those where it's like, I mean, he is still relatively the same person, just he doesn't remember. He's his own person, but he's not. Because he's living in a different period of time.
Could make you think
he's different,
about what our traits mean to us as people now,
even
even those who don't remember past lives.
Doing this entire thing, I have really like taken a deep look within myself. Like, I've even like questioned a lot of stuff where it's like, I'm super into pirate history, super into like Viking history and like Norwegian history. I'm super into like even being super into the ocean, being super into music, like being super into like all that kind of stuff. And then you kind of like have to sit there and think like, am I...
What the is that? What the is that? Don't even stop recording. I want to.
I don't know. I genuinely just... Oh God, no.
I don't know what that was.
Yeah.
You got to remember to like not edit hard on that clip, because we got to be able to bring up that sound.
You got it. We're at like 15 minutes in.
I mean, that was chat. What if it is in the video or not? Like if it was managed to be heard, it sounded like a mixture of two things in my mind. What you said, something metal being scraped, but it also felt like
A dinosaur.
It felt like something wheezing in a way.
Oh, that's significantly more scary than what I thought it was.
It felt to me like, I don't want to say like dog, but like some kind of animal in pain. Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Like it.
What was crazy was the fact that when we got up,
It stopped.
I walked right to the door of what we're in. I walked right to it. Moment I hit the door, done. No sound. You'll see it. You'll see it in the video. When Brent like is about to get up and he stops and looks at me, that's when the sound just stops because I made it to the door.
We're 2 for 2 tonight.
That's two. That's two. I was thinking the same thing.
Tonight.
That's two.
Wow.
So
I don't even know where you're at, so I guess we'll just start at the stories.
yeah,
we got a
have
couple
another
more
story to
stories.
do. Yeah.
You want to take the reins on this one? Dude, I'm like low-key, I don't know about you. I'm like kind of creeped out.
I'm just confused, dude.
I'm creeped out to a confused level because I just don't know.
I have no idea what to, like. I've never heard a sound.
I've never
like
heard that sound. Yeah, I've never heard that sound before.
because it sounded pattern
we
based.
live in the suburbs, my guy.
Yeah.
Like we don't hear no weird animal sounds. Like that
it
was
sounded
like
pattern. So it sounded like every sound it made was about the same length. It sounded the same length of how long it lasted and how long it was silent in between, and it repeated that. So there was form to it.
because at first I was like, oh, someone's like car alarm went off, but then like we stopped talking and they started listening. And I was like, that's no car alarm. Like that's not.
Yeah, it sounded like out of breath in my
Yeah,
opinion.
it
Like,
didn't-
like again, like wheezing almost. That's how I.
But it also sounded very close.
mechanical too. Like it sounded almost mechanical, but not mechanical.
We should have looked up in the sky. What if it was a UFO?
If it was a UFO, bro, we didn't look up. We did not look up.
This is people's problem. They never look up.
Our brains were looking.
We were looking for the rational. We were looking for the rational.
We were looking for cars. We were looking for animals.
We could
were
have
looking
looked
for people.
straight up and there could have been like a giant black triangle over the garage, like
Yeah.
blocking out the stars, and we would have never known.
Not known.
I mean, we could be in a simulation now and we wouldn't even.
Shameless plug. Go check out the Simulation Theory here on the Woodsmen podcast.
That's right. Season what, 2?
I think. Okay. Well,
Sorry. That was a.
if we've mentioned it before, weird sounds and happen on this podcast when we're here. Commonly when we're doing weird episodes, but it just does happen.
We're on
when-
another weirdness week. That's crazy.
That's the thing. It's you. If you guys don't believe us, I'm hoping some of these sounds are going to start actually like getting through to the mics because we hear weird stuff, bruh. We've heard screams.
This one was the weirdest and the longest one I think we've had.
It
so
lasted
far, though.
way
that
longer.
One was like a lot longer than it should have.
Yeah. All right. Doing our best
To forget that just happened.
to get back into what we're doing here today, which is talking about reincarnation. We have another story. This one is from Reddit. This is from a user, Jillybean7, spelled with 2 E's and
7.
a 7. The number, not the word. But it goes as follows.
What's in the box?
What's in the box?
Love that movie, by the way.
My aunt told me this story about her grandchild who at the time would have been 2 years old. So this is
Boom. Commonality. Right
Commonality.
there. Number 1.
the family was together for Christmas when all of a sudden this little girl
Hey,
spelled
I
little
just took
girl.
the quote. I quoted it, man. I quoted it. I was like, really? You could have tried a little bit harder. You could have added 2 T's and L and E, but instead you went L-I-L.
This
And you
little girl.
And you capitalized the
L
L,
in Lil.
but not the G in girl. That's crazy.
All right. Well, this little girl spoke in perfect English.
Clearly not you.
In quotes, I guess she said stuff like, "I remember you. I was coming to visit you Christmas Eve, but I didn't make it." Mm-mm.
Wow.
My aunt says she had a boyfriend back in the day who decided to come down on Christmas Eve and spend the holidays with her. Needless to say, he didn't make it and died in a car accident on the way. This happened before she even had kids, so no one knew this story except this little 2-year-old. This is a little 2-year-old.
This is a little 2-year-old.
Still spelled lil.
Capitalized too. You can't forget
still capitalized.
Yeah, can't forget the
That's
capitalization.
crazy. So that's like another. So that's one, right? That's one story. That's pretty nuts because that tackles a whole other issue that we haven't really discussed is people knowing information about something about you. Like if you have the kid and they know something about you that you've never told anyone, then it's like, how do you refute that?
I punched that baby in the throat. I'd be like, "Hey, shut your mouth, dude." The little cat meme, bro.
A little dent in his skull. Is that you?
Yeah. Yeah. You don't even gotta ask. I know exactly what picture you're talking about.
Oh my god.
It's the doll with the caved in skull.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
Oh
my
man,
god.
that's crazy. Well, we have sorry.
No, it's fine.
Oh god. So we have another one. Fane's 15 Ishtar. I'm glad I can pronounce that, but I can't pronounce any other word in this podcast. I'll tell mine quickly. This was back in the 1800s see, here we go.
Let's say Finzistar, but not industrial.
Yeah, I can't say industrial. Industrial England. My mom was Irish. My dad, English, and they died of cholera when I was, quote, just a wee one, about 2 or 3 years old.
That's so cool to me. Not that they died, but, but we did a video on my old channel. Old, God.
It's not old. It's
not
current.
old, but I don't do anything with it anymore. But yeah, no, we did a video on this back in.
Shout out Pie Master J on YouTube.
Master J.
Yeah, we did it for a school project.
High
school.
back in the day.
Freshman year.
Don't drink contaminated water.
Don't drink it. We also named it cholera.
Cholera.
Because we didn't know that it was called cholera. Pretty crazy. So again, she was 2 to 3 years old. Again, another age commonality. Crazy. I was given to my abusive uncle who had sold me to a This is the reincarnation story. This wasn't her current life, I guess.
Got it.
I was given to my abusive uncle who sold me to a madam, which, if you didn't know, that's someone who runs a prostitute house.
Got it.
I was raised to be a prostitute. There we go. But first started out cleaning the brothel and being coached by my quote-unquote mother on what to do. Eventually, I met a guy I liked, but of course, couldn't really do anything about it. I had low self-esteem, obviously, and I had a distrust of men. I noticed he didn't look at me like I was meat. Shout out slap the meat joke. And he always tried to talk to me. But I knew that if I was to form a relationship with him, which wouldn't bring in the money, then I would simply be whipped. I didn't have as much freedom as the other girls since I was always refusing customers. I was called, I guess, the freshest girl there. I did sneak out at times to stay with him, but there was never anything physical for the first year or so. Damn, she got it on. It's crazy. One of my quote-unquote mother's attendants, a messenger boy, always knew where I stayed, and he'd have to come get me. Or a girl would. Sorry, there's a lot of ors in here. Or I'd be afraid to come back on my own, not talking to the guy for weeks.
Or just kidding.
I was like, oh shit, really? I glanced past that one. One time I just simply refused to come back. I was sick of it. So she went to some police guards after. See,
it's all right.
I just can't read, guys.
She sent some police guards after.
She sent some police guards after me. Twisted cops that were in on the sex market. This is like really sad story.
This is like
it's like a really sad story, but again, it's kind of believable because 1800s, like this makes a lot of sense
Yeah.
to me. But unfortunately, they broke into his house when he was gone. He was a sailor, and and choked me to death.
Jeez.
I still hate having my throat touched to this day. It's really sensitive.
Wow.
So that was her story, and she made an edit, which if you're on Reddit, you can make edits to your stories, all that kind of stuff. So she made an edit to clarify. At around the age of 9, I remember my virginity being sold. It was rough and scary.
That's insane of something to remember at the age of 9. Like that's
Yeah, because it's like
That's wild.
you have to like go through those memories of something that you don't even like. You're not supposed to go through. I
Yeah.
wouldn't say like it doesn't happen because unfortunately, like stuff like that like happens like all too much like in this world, and it's it's an atrocity. It really is like so sad.
We discussed this. We speak a lot to the brain and trying to look for the rational, but we also talk about how children's brains are not meant to know things. We talked about this in our serial killers episode, unfortunately, when we talked about God, I already forgot his name, but the Night Stalker. What neither of us really realized until we dove into his story is that from an early age, he went through the worst kinds of abuse, like sexual abuse, forced to launder in drug sales and taking drugs. I mean, I think he'd like,
he was taking drugs like really, really young,
really
like,
young,
really
and,
young.
Watching his uncle do crazy things, bring him along on like, what were they? I think they called it like peep shows was what one of his family member called, where they would just go in and like look into houses, crazy things where you're like, this is literally mentally, scientifically damaging.
Like
to
this
a
will
children's
destroy
brain.
someone. Yeah, this would destroy someone. So it's like you have to think of like a 9-year-old who has not had these experiences.
Yeah.
Like someone who has not like gone through any of this, remember stuff
it.
like this, and like have such an emotional and like mental attachment to it, to where it's like you shouldn't even know. Like you shouldn't even like see these things. Like I could only imagine like the graphics of like what it would be like to see it in a dream.
Yeah.
Being that young. And that was at age 9, but the commonality came from dreams. I mean, a lot of it, like Dr. Tucker said, a lot of this stuff stems from dreams, very like precise dreams, very like, they're not just memories, but they show up in dreams, like, they're very vivid type of things. So it's like, maybe she wasn't like the same age, but she was definitely like there to, I guess, witness it in a dreamlike state, which is pretty, I mean, it's sad. It's a very sad thing to have to remember.
Terrible.
And I can only imagine like what that did to her in her life now, like how did she grow up? Did she, was she able to overcome all that stuff? Like seeing that in her dreams so vividly at a young age?
And it discusses the same, we talk about commonalities, the idea that your traits linger, your traits of who you were and what
her
happened
neck
to you,
being
her neck being
super
super sensitive to
and-
this day, stuff like that. So
yeah, well, and like it just carries itself with you, and you gotta kind of have to try and understand like and again, not to be the kind of guy who like dismisses anything, but then you have to think like, does she remember this? Is this someone that someone told her when she was young? Did her parents tell her like that she was talking about this stuff?
This
Did
is what
she
I was
go
talking
through
about. This is the
regression,
problem of
like,
children, is you don't know
if
they're truly seeing a past life or if they're being influenced in a way by a TV show that dad left on when he fell asleep drunk, or if someone abused them when they were young. Their minds are
and
so
they just kind of
adaptable.
blocked it out, or like But I know a lot of these stories, a lot of the stories that I was reading to try and pick for this section, a lot of them, we're talking about regressive therapy, where they would kind of almost be like, kind of like put themselves in a trance or have someone put them in a trance, or like, man, I wish I could remember, like hypnotic regression, stuff like that, where you kind of get hypnotized to try and like bring out memories and everything. So I know a lot of like people, I guess, do that. I never knew that was a thing to try and like figure out your past lives, but I guess like that's like a very like common thing that people do. So then you also have to ask yourself stuff like, well, did someone like kind of implant those memories in your mind? You know, if you like all the weird stuff when you talk about like being hypnotized, it's always like all right, when I snap my fingers, when you hear this noise, you're gonna like bark like a chicken, and then like, you know,
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. Like, it sounds funny, but if you think if that stuff can happen, then like, what if someone's like, oh, I want to get the point across so bad that maybe there is, you know, like past lives, so I'm gonna implant this like crazy memory in this person's head, you know, and no matter how obscene it is or like how terrible it is, you know, depending on the person, they could easily implant something like that in your memory, and you wouldn't even be any the wiser, you know, if you can fall into hypnotic regression easily. You know, you can't do a thing about it. You know, some people can't, you know, that's like apparently like a study where it's like some people just can't be hypnotized. It's just like in their brain, they're not really susceptible to all that kind of stuff. But some people are. So it's like you just don't know. Like, and unfortunately with these kind of stories,
You never know.
you have to take them with a grain of salt, but at the same time, like, my heart goes out to you, because if that stuff is something that you had to deal with,
Whether
especially
or not-
remembering at 9, you know, that's
whether
like
or not
a
you're
big thing you
remembering
have
a
to.
past life or your, you know, something influenced what you're talking about at that early age, you're talking about it. That
Yeah.
means that you now know about it. That means that you've been, whether it's through memories, dreams, or influence, you've been now like,
As sad as it is to say, you've almost been tainted.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like
Yeah.
you've been tainted and you didn't even do anything to like
To
have
deserve
that
that,
happen,
dude, yeah.
you know, and that's part of some of these stories where it's like, it might have just been better to not remember, you know, and
yeah.
maybe that is why the brain kind of filters out some of this stuff, you know, like it's
You're probably not
it's
meant to
sad.
hear strange, scraping, whining noises outside the garage.
While
but
doing a podcast on reincarnation.
sometimes it slips through. We have another one. We'll run through this one as well before we start wrapping things up. This one is also from Reddit. This is from user Wild West, but wild is spelled
W.
WYLDE. This is said, quote, I don't believe in reincarnation, but I've had a very vivid dream well over 300 times. That's crazy.
To remember it is wild.
We've talked before how you and I both have a reoccurring dream, right?
At
Bruh,
least once a year.
it pisses me off because I had it recently and I don't remember it.
Yeah.
I never remember what it's about, but I know when I have it.
Force yourself to wake up and write it down.
I wish, bro, but then I wake up and then I'm just like, all right, gotta go work. Then I forget.
Keep a dream journal, bro.
I thought about it. To continue, and it's always the same dream every time. My dream. The rational part of me says that this is something that I dreamt up 15 years ago, and for whatever odd reason, my mind keeps recalling it, but the details never change. Not that it's worth anything online, but I'm a 31-year-old Australian. Oh, it's one of our Australian mates.
Oi, he must be vengeance.
Looks like I'm going to have to read the rest of this in his accent.
No, please don't.
I have a couple of degrees, law and commerce, and am managing consultant, looking after approximately 1,700 people in my division. The Australian part is important. We have zero gun. I'm not going to do it anymore. We have zero gun or paramilitary culture. I sometimes see Americans wearing camo pants to the shops on your TV shows. That's weird. Which is another reason that I can't process my dream. It's straight out of an action movie. So far removed from normal life. I'm a passenger in a helicopter flying over a town that appears Middle Eastern. You know, desert colored. Okay.
I mean, that's fair. He lives in
No,
Australia. Leave him alone, dude.
You know. Desert Kelly.
It's like Sapia, dude. Like he's literally just seeing his dream in Sapia. Leave him alone, dude.
All right.
But it's really big.
But it's really big. The buildings aren't modern. They're
Spelled aren't A-R-N-T, by the way.
they aren't. They aren't. They're 2, maybe 5 stories at most. I'm a passenger in the back facing forward. I can see my friend sitting facing me in fully fledged army gear. We have just completed a mission and the radio goes, "This is a little weird. I really don't think this message is in English, but I understand it all the same. I'm certain I look Caucasian. I don't really hear what they say in the dream, but the guy in front of me talks to me on my own headset. He basically gives the instruction that we're going in again to support another group of troops already on the ground. The helicopter swings about. The dream flashes forward. Then it's me, about to jump out, oddly with a rope in my hands. I'm not talking about climbing gear, but actual thick rope. The kind of thing you would use to dock a boat. Oh, that's that's some thick rope.
It's a thick ass rope.
We're not super far from the ground, but we use it like a fireman's pole.
Okay, so they're sliding down. They're not like parachuting
Yeah, no,
out.
they're
Okay.
going down via rope.
Yeah, via rope.
The ground troops are in formation against the side of the large house. I know that I've seen this before in the movies like American Sniper. Dude, American
Phenomenal
Sniper's
movie,
such
by
a
the way.
good movie,
Yeah,
bro.
Dude, I highly recommend
Oh my
someone
God.
watching that because
And it's a true
based
story,
on a true story.
bro.
Yeah, it's wild.
Sorry.
Shout out Bradley Cooper.
Shout out Brad. They are in a line ready to go in one after the other. The team knock in the door and I'm the second or third one in. In the POV style, my gun is up.
Oh, so that's interesting. He's seeing it.
Yeah, so
in
he's
first
seeing in first person.
Yeah.
I don't often see. Do I?
I don't often.
No, I
see.
see.
My
I
dreams in
usually
first-
see. I
So
usually
I
see
don't.
things.
I don't think I've ever seen one of my dreams in first.
Really?
Person. Yeah.
None. Like none.
Yeah.
Really?
None that I can remember,
Most of the
but
time,
yeah,
I
no.
see it like I'm there.
That's why. Yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
I see it in third person, like the omniscient view, the like above you,
Crazy.
or like I see it in like movie view, where it's like
Where
you
it's
got
like, yeah,
cuts,
you got cuts,
like pans,
sure.
like all that, like yeah. But I
Yeah.
don't see my.
I do
dreams,
have those, but my common one is that like I'm looking around and like I can see the environment around me.
That's that's
with my own
crazy.
eyes.
Yeah, I've never.
I've been shot in a dream in first person. That one was scary.
I've been shot in a dream, but I've never been in first person. So
That's crazy.
I don't,
All right. Well, in this POV style, my gun is up. People on the ground floor fire back, but this all happens in another room, and they are quickly dispatched. I go up the stairs to the first floor that are located near the door. Did I read the right?
Yeah.
Yeah. There is a man in the first room doorway that I shoot, and he's down. Quickly moving through that room into the next, I miss a boy to my left, young, like 15, who has a handheld machine gun, shoots me, then gets shot down by the people behind me. In my dream, I'm semi-kneeling, put my hands to my chest, and I have my own blood on my fingertips. I get first aid assistance, but I've probably got 4 or 5 bullets in me. That's crazy. I always remember the wall behind cracked a little like they've gone through. I tilt forward a bit. The blood oozes out to pool on the floor, then black. That's crazy.
yeah, this is like that's why this story was like wild.
This one's nuts.
Yeah.
For a split second, I'm on a hospital bed with somewhere with bright lights, people milling about, then nothing. And that's that. Weird. I don't think it's based super modern, but maybe as far back as the 70s or 80s. I don't know enough about military equipment to really investigate it. This is the second time I've told someone about this, so there you go. That's a nuts story. I mean, like the amount of
That's
detail.
a lot. Yeah, that's a lot of
way more detail, and to have it so many times.
300 times, dude. Like
Crazy.
that's wild.
So I guess you also have comments for
Yeah,
from this.
So I mean, I can read these.
Sure.
These are like very. I just found these because these were not like right under. I'm talking like I went through the comments on this post and just happened to see these where I was like, oh, that's like interesting.
Yeah.
Like, it's like very interesting. So like one of the first comments I found was there was a Russian incursion into Afghanistan during the 80s. You could have died then and then have been reincarnated into your current life, supposing you believe in that. And like, to me, I was like, I mean, I guess. But then doing the math, bro said he was 31, and that happened in the 80s.
Yeah.
So 80s, 90s, 2000s, that's 30 years.
Could be.
And then, 31, so like give or take like a couple years, like around 5 to 6 years. I mean, that could line up with that. So it's weird. Andy said, like, I'm pretty sure I'm Caucasian, but he also said it was in a language he really didn't understand, but somehow, like, knew it, like, in the dream. And if you're thinking, like, Caucasian, but not a language you understand, he's Australian, so that's English. I mean, Russians are white, so you kind of have to, I mean, if you're going to try and make connections, that is
it could be.
interesting
Could be.
connection for sure. And then another question that I mean, it's not like really tying in much, but it is like one of those like brain scratchers. You kind of got to think about it. Was could be from the future as well. Who says reincarnation is linear? So that's, because that would be a whole different thing. And like we've talked about a lot, like
into that.
We've talked a lot about, like time isn't linear and that it's, occurring all at once and all that kind of, all that stuff that goes into that. I mean, that's a lot, there's a lot we could dive into, but take a shot.
Dive into.
But it is something to think about, if things don't happen in a linear fashion. I mean, some of these things could be from the future, or the distant past. You just don't know what's going on.
I didn't even think about the fact that this could be, reincarnation could also be future stuff. Because who's to say?
Yeah, especially, you just don't know. Yeah.
Especially if you go into that thing I brought up about Kurzgesagt, that, we're all one person living different, reincarnation lives. For all we know, it could be because we're people we've heard of in history books were us. Then who's to say that we're not just the future to them?
And what even is the future if time is all happening all at once? And then it's strange. It's strange. Well, we got one more story for you guys. We hope you guys like it. This one comes also from Reddit. Again, all of these are like from Reddit just because I wanted to find like some
Reddit's one of the best places for people to have an outlet to
talk.
Talk.
Whether or not they're real or not, that's for you to decide. It's all based on your judgment. But these are just some where I was like, I mean, if they're real, it's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy. So this one comes from Face in the Blue. And I quote, I posted this a couple weeks back in a thread that didn't really go anywhere, so I'm going to post it here. I spoke in full sentences from a very young age. One day, my mother took me to the doctor's office for a checkup, and while she's waiting, she starts flipping through a magazine. She said it was like National Geographic, but I've gone looking through all of the issues in the years likely to be in the waiting room in the early 80s, and I'm confident it wasn't actually National Geographic. So this one kind of struck me because it's like, obviously, she did her research. She's trying to figure out this stuff. And we already, again, got a commonality. Some of these kids are a lot, brighter. They speak more.
Yeah.
All this stuff. She's talking about full sentences from a very young age. And she's obviously trying to figure out, like, what's going on with the story. So I found this one a little bit more credible, for sure.
Yeah.
But let's keep going, right? So whatever it was, she was flipping through it, and with my little hands, I grabbed the thing, flipped back several pages frantically, and then I put my face like an inch above the page. I just froze there, poring over this picture of a ruined monastery in the desert, drinking in every little detail. My mother can't remember whether it was Africa or the Middle East, unfortunately. But anyways, she asked me what I liked so much about the picture. And I said to her, I used to live there. She laughed. No, you've always lived with me. And then I said, no, this was a long time before you were even born, I told her, waving one hand at her dismissively. Yeah, that was crazy. So she pulls me back from the page and she asked me, well, what did you used to do when you lived there? Thinking this was one of those games children play when they're talking about being firefighters or construction workers or something like that. She says I told her I wrote books and I grew vegetables. And my little finger pointed at the outbuilding of the monastery and in an empty field behind it. Well, I'm speaking in full sentences, but I can't read yet. My mother said she got very cold and started shivering from head to toe. The caption of the photo was explaining that the monastery was nearly self-sufficient, gathering rainwater in cisterns to support vegetable gardens year around behind the scriptorium, where the monks produce copies of the Bible and other holy books. She says she put down the magazine and walked out of the doctor's office with me in her arms. She rescheduled the appointment entirely. It was just too creepy.
Oh, hell no.
Yeah.
Don't you have to pay for that? No, not me.
Yeah, dude, she just lost her copay, man. That's like
dude,
$30.
You're getting your ass into that.
That's right, dude.
Into that
Hell
checkup,
nah,
bro.
Dude. She then ends the I guess story with saying, I'm not saying I believe in reincarnation, but I have a good feeling about it based on this story and a couple other ones that I have heard.
Damn,
that one to
dude.
me is probably like the most,
That
like,
one's
even though the one
intriguing.
before was like very detailed, I feel like this one
This
to me
one's
was
more.
like,
It's detailed in a different way. It's detailed.
it falls more in line with all the studies that have been like
Yeah.
conducted with this kind of stuff happening.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I'm talking almost, it checks off almost every box. I mean, she was super young, check. She
Super
was very
aware.
vibrant, very
Yeah.
aware at a young age, check. You know,
Was
she
able to recount things that she shouldn't have been able to know, noting the fact that she couldn't read yet.
Yeah, that, I mean, that's a big one. I mean, if you can't read, but yet you're like looking at something saying like, oh yeah, I used to be there. I used to, you know,
Work in the garden, do all this
garden,
stuff.
books, all that kind of stuff. And then like you read the caption, that's exactly what it's about. I mean, that's like, that's like textbook no.
It's textbook no.
Yeah, that's too much, man. That's too much. So, and
Yeah.
I mean, you can kind of tell just by the way she writes it, you know, it's like, I had to ask my mom. I had to ask my mom. I had to ask my mom. You know, it's not like, well, I recount
Yeah.
or I remember this,
It's
you
still
know, because
believable from a kid's
again,
perspective.
from those studies, a lot of the kids, by the time they're like 5 to 6, you know, they forget,
Yeah.
you know, period. They just forget. It's not something that's, you know, there at the forefront of their mind anymore. But like this one, it's pretty
It's very strange.
creepy. Well, let's
Do you think you? Oh no. Yeah. I guess we can switch over if you'd like. Is that where you were going?
well, yeah, the rest of the discussion. So
What's happening now?
I don't
I'm
know.
confused.
let's just start over from like the
Okay.
from before that whole debacle. You could start.
Do you think you had a past life?
I mean, I think there's more signs of it now that I'm older as far as like interests and everything. I feel like I've had like interests just kind of like pop up in my life that have been like out of nowhere, where it's like, you know, some of them, like all my creepy and everything. I've been watching weird my whole life. I mean, I watched my first scary movie at like 5, you know, like it's stuff like that where it's like, you know, as far as like my love and interest for like, you know, scary things or like spooky things or like occult things like UFOs, all that, like I can kind of just attribute that to like I just watched a lot of that when I was really young and didn't have like a filter on things I watched. So I guess have always been more open to that because it always had that wonder or like sense of belief where I'm like, oh my gosh, like there's no way that could be fake, you know? Like, so I don't attribute that, but I do attribute a lot of like the pirate history, a lot of the Viking and like Norwegian history, I do attribute a lot of that now to where I'm like, that came like really out of nowhere. I mean, I was not watching pirate stuff when I grew up. I mean, even like little pirate cartoons, like that was never like a thing. It wasn't until I was like older where I like was really like, oh, this is like crazy. And it was almost like a sense of, I mean, even doing like basic stuff like playing like Sea of Thieves and everything. Whereas like, yeah, go to the capstan. You're like, what the fuck is that? Like, stuff like that where it's like, well, yeah, it's like, that's what it is, And even though it's like, it says it on the game, but it's one of those where it's, I don't associate that with like minimal terms. I'm always very like, I guess, precise, where I'm like, well, that's what it is, like that's just what it is. That's what it's called. That's what it does, being very technical about certain things.
Maybe.
Where it's like, I don't know if that like maybe has a correlation with something.
What's that guy's name?
Stuff with, and it's weird too, because I think about, what are the commonalities between like, pirate history, Viking history, my love for the ocean, like all that stuff. It all has to do with water. I mean, even Vikings were, traveling to distant lands by boat, all that. Just all that kind of stuff has really been like, okay. I mean, it could just be like, oh, it's just a cool fascination I have with all of it. But at the same time, it's one of those, if it's going to be anything, most likely it's probably going to be those, because it has just come out of nowhere. I was always obsessed with like weird things, so I can't really attribute.
Maybe you're Henry Avery. Is that his name?
Maybe, dude. Either that or
be nice.
Sam Bellamy, and I just got swept up in a storm. And
I'm just saying, if you're Henry Avery, it's kind of of you to not let anyone know
where the treasure
where
is.
Where the hell any of it is.
Yeah, it makes me mad. It makes me mad too.
Do some meditating.
We're poor, dude.
Some, like you said,
let's do some hypnotic regression and try and find that out. Like,
let us know.
Get the answers to Madagascar or something.
Episodes we could fund if we could just find the treasure.
We wouldn't even need sponsors at that point. Yeah. Every episode could be free. Like,
dude, I don't know if because again, I don't necessarily believe in reincarnation as much as the next guy, but the traits alone do, like you said, could speak to a past life. I view myself as a lover of all things storytelling. So in my mind, everything that I love about podcasting or content creation, cameras and
art and like all
art.
That
I've
stuff,
done drawing my whole life, and I still to this day, I don't do it as often as I want to, but even to this day, I still take time to just sketch because I love getting better and better. Not saying I'm great, not to toot my own horn. I don't think I'm that good, but I do think I've been drawing since I was like 2 or 3. I think I started drawing when I was 3 years old, and I don't even remember doing that, But I've always taken pride in being able to replicate things and do stuff like that. It's and again, movies are a big influence in my life when it comes to what storytelling can create.
Yeah, movies have been a really big.
Now, I don't know what that could mean for what a past life of mine would be. I don't know if I would be like an author or if I would be a director or hell, maybe I'm Walt Disney.
You just don't know. You just don't know. Yeah.
I think if I was to believe in reincarnation, I would definitely believe that art and or storytelling would be the traits of mine that would likely be the connecting factors to my lineage.
Yeah, it's strange because you just don't know. I mean, obviously, if we could like go and talk to our parents, like, hey, did I say any weird things when I was young, or like, did I have any interest that you would deem like old soul type? If that makes sense. Like, were there any things I just did that was like weird for like
my
a
mom
kid
would just bring up the fact that when I was a very young kid, I would very much watch those Carl's Jr. commercials from back in the day where it was just a girl in a bikini eating a burger. And she knew what was going
And you were
on, but she'd
like,
be like, "What are you looking at?" And I'd be like, "That's a
burger."
good burger." You know what we're all looking at.
The
But I
burger,
was, but I
right?
was young. Oh yeah. But I was
The Angus beef.
his beef. The star nuggets.
Damn, those nuggies are out of this world.
Did you? God, this is such an off the topic question, but when you had chicken nuggets, either normal like McDonald's or the stars, did you have a very particular way of eating them as a kid, like an almost OCD type of eating method? Because I did.
When I would eat nuggies, you know how there'd be some where it had like a longer part, like at the bottom or whatever.
Yeah.
It was kind of like boot shaped, but have to eat the longer part first.
That's fair.
I couldn't start with the smaller part because it was just like
I think
weird.
I think I had a problem.
Oh no! Did you used to eat them in shapes of stars?
So I would take the star, and I would take a bite off of all the nubs of
To
the
make it
star
a
first to
circle?
make it a circle.
Yeah.
Then hold on, this is where the weird thing comes in.
Okay.
Then I would slide the extra skin that was still on top and the bottom of the nuggie off of the nuggie, and I would eat the skin, and then I would just sort of like look at this circle nug, and then I would eat the nug.
I'm pretty sure you had a mental disorder. Because from the that you've told me in the past, I'm pretty sure you were like borderline retarded. Maybe not fully, but you were definitely on the spectrum. So needless to say, no, I never did that. I would just eat the full nuggie like a normal human being
I
would.
did it with regular nuggies too,
Yeah,
like the
that's
regular shaped
not
ones. I
good.
would
That's-
nibble on the ends around it until it was just the top and the bottom of the crust, and I would take the crust off, eat the crust, and then I'd just have a nuggie with no skin. It's just chicken. It's just a chicken piece, and then I'd eat the chicken. Just straight up, you're like, yeah. You had the signs.
You might have like dodged them, but they still like nipped you, you know? Like, you're still there. You're still there, man. Yeah, I never did that. But going back to reincarnation, I don't know what other child back in the day, unless they were, you know, burned at the stake like witches or something for doing some weird like that. Like, I don't know.
I was a weird kid. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, that wasn't me. I never
Okay.
did. I never did that. But
sorry, chat.
but I will say, because I did mention I would go back to it from the very
Yes,
beginning
yes.
when we were talking about basically the entirety of, I guess, people all being connected, people all are essentially us, you know. I've, as anyone would know from this podcast, had a lot of spiritual changes in my life, probably in the past like year and a half now. And I was a worship leader, was in church my whole life, Christian church my whole life. Did the whole thing, you know. Grew up.
Oh, hell no. That is the biggest damn spider I've ever seen. He's in between the XLRs. Like by the leg of the...
He's crawling towards you.
Oh, what the f***?
Kill that
Oh my god, he's like a mutant.
So, as a lot of chat knows, if you guys haven't, you know, been with us for a while, I've gone through a lot of spiritual changes in the past year and a half, as far as personal spirituality. I was a worship leader, did the whole Christian church thing my whole life. I mean, we grew up in the same school,
Mm-hmm.
you know, private Christian school, our whole lives. I mean, you were in it preschool, to, graduating.
Yeah, yeah.
And I did the same. And you pursued higher knowledge, like also like college and in a Christian school.
Mm-hmm.
And I branched out into public college and did the whole thing. And been out of church now for a while. And that's kind of, and I think we both knew this even before I had left church, that I had always been on a more questioning part of life, just like questioning, hey, is this really what I believe in? Is this really the right, I guess, quote unquote, answer that you're supposed to get within church? Like, oh, this is the only way. If it's not the way, you're going to hell, type of thing. And I've never really agreed with any of that kind of stuff. But it took me leaving the church to finally just branch out.
Plug, a beginning to an end.
Yeah.
Chillcast.
Chillcast.
Woodsmen podcast.
Yep. The last pod we did in
the old
said studio. But no, we all have different life changes. We all go through our own stuff, go through our own awakenings and everything, as far as what we believe in and how we, treat others, how we act upon certain things. And just these past, I would say maybe like 5 months or so, really been battling as far as like, is that even something I believe in anymore? Is that really like what I want to base the rest of my life off of, or like how I like live and do things? Is that really like where I'm at,
Mm-hmm.
And it took me I mean, it's been a journey for like a long time, but it really took me like these past 5 months to really like dive deep into a lot of different. Take a shot.
Take a half.
All right, yeah, half.
You didn't say
yeah,
in, so.
Yeah, I almost said it right there.
I know.
But I found this author who also does a podcast, who also has his own YouTube channel where he does streams weekly, just talking about human consciousness and talking about who we are as people and what we're really meant to be, and what these life lessons that you can take from every religion, not just Christianity, but all these different sects of Christianity, all these Islamic beliefs, Hinduistic, Buddhistic, Sikhism, like all of these different religious topics and cultures, where it's like, first of all, how do you read these sacred texts that all of these religions have? And then how do you really look deep within them and then apply them, as far as like, not one is right and not one is wrong, but how do you look at them as far as like, we're all talking about the same things. We just have different ways of talking about it. Everyone in every cultural religion believes in a higher power. It's either God, it's Allah, it's enlightenment. It's it's not even reincarnation. Reincarnation is just a step that you get towards like an enlightened state of mind and everything. And something that I've like really realized throughout these texts and everything is that, like you said, this video that you just watched, we are essentially all the same person. We are all the collective mind and consciousness that, like, in terms of what we know, we're all souls, we all have a soul. We all have, like, quote unquote, the Holy Spirit, the thing guiding us that's on the spiritual side of everything. But when you take a look at those texts, a lot of those texts are like separating the human experience from the soul experience, that we're totally separate. We're not separate. We are souls. We are consciousness in a body, like we're not, like, that's the thing I think a lot of us forget. I think a lot of us think like when we die, you lose that individuality. You lose like who you were like on this planet for say like 30, 40, 50, 70, 80, 90 years.
Yeah.
You're on this earth. You just lose it and then that's it. Like you go, you have a, in Christianity, you get the new body, you get the new, mind, soul, like all this kind of stuff. Live together in harmony up in heaven, all this, all that jazz. And if that's what you believe in, that's cool. Like that's just your interpretation of what life is. But I think like God, like what we consider God, is just the collectiveness of like all of us. It's harmony. It's peace. It's us being able to, when we finally die, we're together and we're not separate anymore. That's like the whole thing. I mean, we got the golden rule, like do to others as you would want done unto you. That's because the person down the street that's homeless that you see every single day when you drive past them, like that's you. Like it's, a lot of people, it's like, oh, well, think of them as if it's Jesus, or think of it as, oh, it's God. Like, dude, like think of it as that it's you.
Yeah.
Like, what would you want in that situation? You want someone to care for you because maybe that is a part of you. Like, regardless, maybe it's not you, like physically, but it's like the moral code doesn't get dictated by like what the set of rules in a Bible is. The moral code is everywhere. You don't grow up to just want to murder people. Like things happen within your life to like cause you to like be on that mindset, and like you just said with the Night Stalker on this episode, he went through tragedy after tragedy after tragedy that no kid should have to endure, no kid should have to see, and that like formulated and shaped like who he is. Like if none of that stuff happened, that likely would not have happened. Like it is people who don't have it all together yet that cause other people to stumble. That's another thing in the Bible, like we cause ourselves to stumble. It's all about picking yourself back up, keep climbing the ladder. You can take 2 steps back, but as long as you keep going, that's all that matters. I mean, it's the same principles, like we all fall short. We all do dumb stuff, whether or not I die and then I get reincarnated into someone else to figure it out or not, like, then so be it. That's probably what hell is. You're getting sent back to somewhere that's not harmony and not peace and not like, you're back to being separated. Everyone's being separated. I think we all are like a conscious being that is like God, even in scripture, it's like, God is within you because maybe we're all part of God, like maybe we are essentially God, if he's inside of us, maybe that's what we're trying to strive to be. We're trying to be together, a collective thought, a collective mind, collective consciousness. Whether or not that looks like what we think it looks like, none of us will know. And we've had that conversation even outside of the podcast. Like, we're trying to put words to something that's indescribable with human language. Like we choose words to associate things with certain things in order to make it easier.
How big infinity is.
Yeah, and you just can't do it. You just can't do it, So I do believe a lot in like with that video you just brought up that, maybe we are all us, like, and as like hard as that is to comprehend, it's also hard to comprehend what eternity is. It's also hard to comprehend, like, oh, we'll be singing Hosanna in the highest for all eternity. Like, I'm sorry, I don't want to do that. That sounds boring. Like, but that is also humans trying to like come up with what eternity is going to be. You just can't. You just can't put it into words.
To understand what singing Hosanna in the highest for eternity looks like.
Yeah.
The reason it sounds boring is because we're viewing it from a human perspective.
Exactly. We just don't have
There's no way to know.
Yeah. We just don't have that comprehension or just, in fact, just the knowledge. None of us have that knowledge to do that.
I totally get where you're coming from. Like I said, the looking into it as though we're all one person is kind of how I view it because I don't necessarily believe in reincarnation. So there is a part of me that still doesn't kind of view it that way, but it's one of those things where if you look at it from an hour perspective and you take the chance to just have open ears, then yes, it's not unbelievable to view the world that way. To
Yeah.
view that we're all one entity, that we're all striving for the same thing, no matter what definition of religion you give it. You know, so I don't think that's a bad take.
Yeah. And I mean, anything is not off the table as far as weird. I mean,
Yeah.
there's, you know, if you got people who've been studying stuff for 20 plus years, that's 20 more years than I've ever studied this stuff. I studied this stuff for a week. You know,
Yeah.
like I wrote about this stuff for a week. Didn't even begin to scratch the surface, you know, like there's
No.
people who are way smarter than us that have had way more experiences than us firsthand, you know,
And when
accounts
we
of
get that
people
Apollo
or kids.
times 8, we will have them on to discuss it.
Yeah, we just
One
don't
day.
we just don't have the knowledge to do like any of that kind of stuff. But I do believe people who have studied stuff that I don't understand. You know, people like Raymond Moody with all the life after death stuff. You know, Dr. Tucker, who has spent 20 years researching this stuff. You know, I tend to believe people who have spent their whole lives like where it's like, hey, I'm not saying I believe in anything, but there's some weird stuff going
Yeah.
on that, you know, I can't explain. And there's way more than just one or two people having the experience.
Which is, I
Whether
think
or not
we
I know what
talked
the
about
experience is,
a
I don't
little
know.
bit on the last episode. I think it was the last episode. But that's where I think my outlook on life is a little different. Mine is that I more so appreciate the take of anyone who has had that time to research it, but I don't necessarily believe them. But that doesn't really what grammar.
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily mean that I'm giving all of my belief into a pastor. The
Yeah.
pastor is the same thing as a scientist who studied it his whole life to me. Not to say that they're the same thing, but I mean in the way I view them. I appreciate the pastor's take on what he's trying to convey and trying to teach me in the moment of like a sermon or something, because, you know, you did your research, sir. You read the Bible, you came to the conclusions, and now you're trying to give off what you've learned. A scientist who's studied the science and the correlations behind reincarnation and the tendencies and the things that add up, I totally respect it because he's put in more work than I have. But I don't believe anyone. I just appreciate their intake because that's going to then mold the clay of who I am as a person.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
And
how
I
I
mean,
view it.
like we've always said too, even with like just all of the weird week stuff that we have done, majority of it is, I mean, you take everything with a grain of salt until something happens to you
Yeah.
where you can fully be like, and I hate that we're like this, you know, by the way, I hate that, you know, humans just in general have to be the people where it's like, well, until I see the Bigfoot right in front of me, I don't believe it. You know, or like, as long as I don't see the whole shared death experience happen right in front of me when someone that I know is on the table about to kick the bucket, I don't believe in it. You know, like,
Yeah.
and it sucks that we're like that because, you know, it's not just you. I mean, like, majority of people were like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, you know, at the same time, maybe we should have a little bit more of that when it comes to any religion or any some sort of religion, not just, you know, Christianity, just anything, you know, like, hey, take it all with a grain of salt, you know. At the end of the day, just treat people with love and respect and kindness.
Love, not hate.
You know,
That's the Woodsman
love,
motto.
not hate. You know, you just gotta live by the moral code, man. I think we all live by the code of maybe we should not be people.
Yeah.
You know, like I think we
That's
all
the
have
hope.
like come to that agreement. Whether or not people go by it, you know, that's on them. But it's like live every day like it's your last. Live every day, you know, just trying to be a better person and just, you know, whatever happens, happens. There's nothing you can do about it, you know, when it comes down to the end of your life. Whether or not you get reincarnated into another baby, or whether or not you go to some pearly gates, or whether or not you reach total enlightenment, or, you know, whatever happens, you know, try and live heaven now, you know, try and
Yeah.
live like
Yeah.
peace now,
Be
like
the
try
best
and
you can be.
try and make the earth like, you know, what you want it to be in the afterlife, you know, like stop trying to
Because the only
make the
the only thing
afterlife,
that
you know,
we
the
have
afterlife.
proved, and I think I mentioned this once before, the only thing we have proved so far in the world, I think the only thing is that we all die.
Yeah.
The body.
There's life and then there's death.
And so
We don't know what
you-
happens before or after.
Exactly.
Like that's
So
it.
with the time you have, whatever the next step is, live, like you said, live heaven now. Live what you can now to the best. Treat others with kindness and respect.
Yeah, because we're not all gonna agree. You know, we're
No.
all on different. Like again, we've talked about it many times. You know, we're all on different paths. We're all walking different lives. Even though if we're still living in the same timeline, doesn't mean we're all living through the same experiences. You know, we're in different places of the world, experiencing different things, and all you can do is just try to be better. You know, for
Yeah.
humanity. You know, try to do what you can to care about others. It's all that matters, dude. So, well,
So that
Pretty
was
crazy.
Reincarnation.
this is great. Yeah.
This episode was longer than we expected, but I think it was a good conversation to have.
Yeah,
Very fun.
definitely.
We touched on a lot of emotions today. Fear,
We did.
sadness.
Went through fear in real time.
Yeah, you guys genuinely got to see what it's like when me and Brent don't know what the is going on.
Quite literally. That was like 15 minutes in. We're an
We're
hour
an
and 20 minutes.
yeah.
And like,
We-
that's crazy.
We went down the rabbit hole for sure.
Yeah.
But as always, we do have a question to leave you guys off with, as we do every week. This week's question is, what even is reincarnation? And do you believe in it? Could it be a real phenomena in your guys' opinion? What would it look like? What does it look like to you? Is it just coming back as a person? Is it coming back as a starfish? Coming back as just kind of a metaphorical coming back? What does reincarnation look like to you guys?
If you were a starfish in the next life, I'd be a sponge. Real talk. I think I might love you, bro.
I think I need to
Go to
new
sleep.
pants.
Oh, drastically different. Well,
It's because I myself.
yeah, no, that makes sense. I just creamed. So if you guys like this episode or any other episode you guys have heard, make sure to like, subscribe, comment, rate. Definitely try to rate us on Spotify. That always helps.
Yes, and on Apple Podcasts.
Yeah, and if you guys have any questions, comments, or stories, definitely send them in to the woodsmanpod@gmail.com or hit us up on woodsmanpod on Instagram. I'm sure I'll be on. So
I'm on. I just don't do the socials. I'm
Yeah.
really bad about it. But
So-
I read all the messages.
I promise I
I-
won't say some out of pocket stuff. We would love to talk to you.
We'll do it. If it's out
Joe-
of pocket, it's me.
Joey just monitors to make sure I don't say some dumb like
Yeah.
that's pretty much what happens. Because I say
Pretty much.
some dumb stuff in the middle of recording, so we try to keep it professional on Instagram and PG. So yeah, hope you guys liked it, and we'll see you next episode.
We've been your hosts, Joey Rucker.
And Brent Murphy. Later, Gators.
The Woodsman Podcast is actively reading and responding to anything and everything on Instagram and our email.
If you have any questions, comments, or concerns about the show, or would like to possibly be on the show, you can email us at thewoodsmanpod@gmail.com.
Make sure to keep up with all things Woodsman related on Instagram and X at WoodsmanPod.
Don't forget to rate, like, and subscribe to the Woodsman Podcast wherever you get your podcasts, with video exclusively on YouTube and Patreon.
Make sure to follow our personal accounts at Strange Kids and Piemaster J on all platforms. The Woodsman Podcast is co-produced by Brent Murphy and Joey Rucker.
Recorded at Elite Sound Studios, located in the Inland Empire.
Written by Brent Murphy.
Technical support by Eric Bessero.
Video editing by Joey Rucker. And blood, sweat, and tears by all of us.
Any additional content by the Woodsman Podcast may not be used without our permission. Copyright Cabin 13 Productions.
And remember, you're not done till you're dead.